Okay, let's see how this went for you. Huva is setting up a lemonade stand. It costs her $5 to buy all her supplies. So if it costs her something, you might want to be thinking about subtraction there, right? So it costs her that. She will make $1 for each. For each is another way to write the word per. So we want to think about multiplication there. Each glass she sells. If she sells G glasses of lemonade, write an expression for how much Huva will earn. So what's she going to do? What's our variable? It's the number of glasses of lemonade she sells. She sells G glasses of lemonade. So G is our variable. It's the number of glasses sold. Okay, so we know then that it's going to cost us something, so that's the subtraction part, and we're going to get $1 for each or per glass. So we're going to do a little subtraction here, we're going to do a little multiplication here. So let's see how we can put this all together now. So first of all, we know that we're going to get $1 for each glass of lemonade sold, and that's our earnings, but from those earnings we have to subtract the $5 that we spent on our supplies to find out what our total earnings are, because we've got to account for the fact that it cost us some money to get things set up. All right, so those are writing expressions from a word problem. And the trick is to find the variable and identify it, and then to figure out your operations and write your variable and your numbers together with the operations. Remember, no equal signs, and we can have multiple answers for these. For instance, down here, if Huva sells 10 glasses of lemonade, the answer here will be different than if she sells 20 glasses of lemonade. Okay, now we're going to move on to equations. Now with equations, remember that we have an equal sign and we have one correct solution. So equations, we have an equal sign and we have one correct solution. All right, but other than that, the process is pretty similar to what we were doing with expressions. So here we go. We're going to, number one, identify and define the variable. Then we're going to write our equation. Then we're going to solve it. So here we go. Emma paid $26 in all for a hammer. So in all, that kind of sounds like the equal part. It's going to equal $26 because that's how much I spent in all, or how much Emma spent in all. The hammer cost $10, so that we're going to subtract that out maybe. And then we're going to write an addition, but we've got to write an addition equation. So eventually we'll subtract this $10 out, but maybe not right at the beginning, using the variable n to show how much she spent on the screwdriver. So what does our variable stand for? How much she spent on the screwdriver. Okay, so n is the amount spent on the screwdriver. All right, and so what are we going to do? We know that in all, we're going to pay $26. That's what it says here, in all. And we have to write an addition equation. So we're going to have to ignore the fact that our cost is a subtraction for a minute here. You'll see it'll come into play in a second. All right, so we know that we spent $26 in all. And how did we spend that $26? Well, we know we spent $10 on our hammer, but what don't we know? The amount on the screwdriver. So 10 plus n, the amount we spent on the screwdriver, is how we get to this 26. Now we can solve this, and here's where that subtraction comes in. We're going to do opposite operations on both sides of the equal sign to find out that n equals 16. So there's where we're subtracting out the $10 from the total spent. All right, let's look at the next one. A box of pencils costs $3. Okay, Brian got $2 change after paying for one box. Write a subtraction equation using the variable x to show how much Brian gave the cashier. We'll change markers here. All right, so subtraction, and the variable is x, and that tells us how much Brian gave the cashier. So remember, the variable, we always know what the variable stands for because it tells us in the problem. It's the part we don't know. So in this case, x is amount given to the cashier. So imagine this scenario: you walk into a store, you've got a $5 bill or a $10 bill or a $20 bill. You pick up some things to buy, you give your bill to the cashier. In this scenario, they're going to take $3 out of what you gave them, and you'll get a change of $2. So let's see how this would look in an equation. So I walk into the store. I have X dollars. I spend 3 of those dollars, and I get change of $2. Now, I know that you can solve this without showing opposite operations, but remember, we're doing that anyway just to get in our good practice. So the opposite of subtracting 3 from the variable is adding 3 to both sides. And so we find out that Brian walked into the store, or at least gave the cashier a $5 bill. She took $3 to pay for the pencil box and gave him $2 back. Okay, let's look at the next one, number 3. After dropping 5 degrees Fahrenheit, so that sounds like we're going to have some subtraction there to me. The temperature was 25 degrees. So dropping sounds like subtracting. Was sounds like the equal sign part of this, right? Write and solve an equation to show what the starting temperature is. Well, it doesn't tell us what the variable is here, but what we don't know, what we have to solve for, is what the starting temperature was. So I'll call it T, and that's going to be our starting temperature. You could have called it X or Y, doesn't matter. So the starting temp. So what happens with that starting temp? We start somewhere, we drop or subtract 5 degrees, and we end at 25 degrees. Be careful with this one. A lot of times people say, oh, 25 minus 5. No, that's not it at all. This is starting at some temperature that we don't know, and then subtracting the 5 degrees because we go down 5 degrees, and ending at 25. So of course, to solve this, we do opposite of what's happening to the variable. So we're adding 5 to both sides, and we get T equals 25 plus 5, or 30. So our starting temp was 30. It dropped 5 degrees, and then it was 25 degrees outside. Okay. So let's see if you can do number 4, and then tune into the next video and see how you did on that one.